and I'm an advocate for diversified course portfolios. The summer of 2018 was a case study. We had classes that had three different channels. Interestingly, linear algebra, for example, had on-ground and video streaming during the 5-week session, and the asynchronous online was running over the 10-week session. So of these three classes, there were always a 10-week session. There was always a 10-week session. One class, Calculus 2, had only 2 of these methods, and differential equations was kind of a special section. It was only offered with the asynchronous online. So one of the differences I think this diversified course portfolio makes, at least in the summer enrollment when looking at 7 consecutive summers, is that it offers students more options. And so here there was a surge in the enrollment in these 3 classes during summer of 2018, and in part, I think it has to do with how the students answered this question. The question was, which of the following options do you think are more suitable to students during the summer? So the 3 samples that were consulted here were students that were taking a 10-week class that was asynchronous online. The 5 possible answers here, and they were allowed to choose more than one, in part because they were not only answering about their own individual choice, not choice, what it was more suitable for them, but what was suitable for students. So the first one is, I read them to you. 5 options. The top one, basically the first 2 are going to be about 5-week sessions, and the latter 3 are going to be about 10-week sessions. The first one was meeting every day in person for a period of 5 weeks. Second one, meeting every day by video conference for a period of 5 weeks. Third option, meeting twice a week in person for 10 weeks. Next option, meeting twice a week by video conference for 10 weeks. And the last one is having strongly encouraged but not required weekly meetings, either in person or by video conference, while using pre-recorded videos for a period of 10 weeks. So this is what the sample of Calculus 2 students was answering. These are the linear algebra students, and these are the differential equation students. So I think that here, this is more telling. I wouldn't say it's not so much about on-ground versus online. I think in the summer, what this is reflecting is more about 5 weeks with a very rigid schedule and 10 weeks with a more flexible schedule. And here you see the longer bar in the last option, I think in part because all these 3 populations were students that were doing exactly that. So I think that the rigid schedules are easily outcompete with full-time employment during the summer. And
Ariel, yeah. I'm sorry, can you go back to the previous slide, the line graph slide?
This one.
Right. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on with that, the shift from 2017 to 2018 on there. Were there more sections? I understand they had more options in 2018, but were there more sections in 2018?
Usually in the summer prior to, so basically in 2017, between 2012 and 2017, there was only one section that was on ground during 5 weeks. It could be summer 1 or summer 2. In summer 2018, one class had 3 sections, one class had 2, and one class had only 1. The other thing that was different is I'm the principal investigator of National Science Foundation grant, and there were some students that had funding, they had scholarship money, and they populated some of these classes. So for example, there were, and this is where differential equations was like a special section. There were 8 out of 11 students in DFQ with funding, and linear algebra, there were 6 out of 26 with funding, and in Calculus 2, there were 4 out of 41. So the surges here, certainly there was an injection there of students with funding populating some classes, but if you compare 2018 to 2017, one thing this has been a struggle, bless you, you can see that in 2017 consistently, all these 3 classes had fewer students than they did during the summer of 2016. In fact, differential equations here appeared with 0 students because DFQ was canceled in 2017. The year prior, it had 4 students. Linear algebra had 10 students in 2017. It had 15 in 2016. And Calculus 2 had 20 students in 2017, and it had 30 students in 2016. So, I think there was certainly an effect of having students with scholarship funding, but I also think that the effect of diversified portfolios has more to do with the way they're answering these questions about rigid schedules versus more flexible schedules. So when you schedule a summer class over 10 or 12 weeks, the longest it could be is 12, because that would be pre-summer, summer 1, and summer 2 all put together. When you schedule a summer class over 12 weeks, now that's looking pretty much like a 15-week class in a regular semester, which means that there's no longer need to meet with students every day of the week if you're going over 12 or 10 weeks, unless you want to meet them for 30 minutes, 5 days a week, right? So you could schedule meetings twice a week for 2 or 3 hours, and I think that would open up their whatever competition there is between the school schedule and the work schedule. I think these 10-week or 12-week sessions could offer more flexibility,
So the spike that you're showing there in 2018, you're right, I was 2018. These were 5-week courses, or these were 15?
No, each point here is the aggregate count of the 5-week and the 10-week. So each point,
The 10-week weren't offered in some of the earlier sessions.
The 10-week were not offered in the previous years. That's right. So 2012 through 2017, it was 5-week on-ground only. And then in 2018, there were more options, 5-week on-ground versus 10-week online. But you could easily have...
And financial support.
So Rick is saying, and with financial support from the scholarship program, that's correct. I think...
And I'm just going to interject. So in the Calculus 2 course, it looks like 41 students? 41 students?
41 students,
and
yeah.
4, you're saying 4 were receiving?
4 had the financial support of the scholarship program.
Okay.
The other part of financial support that is complicated, possibly more complicated now than it was 10 or 20 years ago, these rules change all the time, this financial aid. So the usual financial aid rules would require a student to have 6 credit hours, to then at least 6 credit in the summer, to then have to be eligible for financial aid. So if you compound that with the rigid schedule and the full-time employment, and now, 6 credit hours means at least you have to take 2 of these classes in both sessions. So I think that's part of what explains some of those trends there. So, yeah, okay. I guess this is the end.